And it's like, I love the way that you also weave your songwriting in with your vulnerability and with your songs, and it really shows too. Um, I love Volcano, and I love I think especially Alchemy, there's depths to why I love it too. I love that you picked each song to represent an element, and Alchemy turning pain into power is also such a great symbol, a great name to choose for a whole album. And I feel like when you listen to all the songs, it really makes a lot of sense too.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Volcano was another one that was similar, actually, um, where it was this really, and it's actually sort of talking about this process of the fear of your own voice. And
Mm.
it was about a situation where, not to dive 100 feet into the deep end this early in the podcast.
That's
Um,
okay. Go for it. I love diving deep.
okay. Well, yeah, it was a situation where, I had spoken out against an abuser, and the sort of, which is something that's come out of, especially over the past like 10 years, I would say, with women, and how, we've had a lot of people speaking out because of the Me Too movement and making their stories heard, which is really amazing and
Hmm.
powerful.
Yeah.
But there's also this way that society shuts down us from, or anybody, not just women, but anybody who's been victimized in specific ways. They might be shut down from speaking out about it or even punished for that. So, Volcano was that kind of wrestling within yourself of like, oh, you kind of gaslight yourself, like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm the one who's not actually doesn't even know what's going on, or like, didn't actually happen, or you start doubting yourself, and you're doubting your truth. And I
Yeah.
think that's part of it in this whole journey of finding your voice and putting it out there, is like, people want to shut down authenticity because it's scary. Like when
Yeah.
you bring that up in front of somebody else, they get scared about their own vulnerability. So I'm not just talking about like people shutting down, people speaking out about sexual abuse. That's one really obvious, horrific aspect
Right.
of it. But there's the subtle ways that that happens every day, where it's like safer to fit in a specific box and
Right.
kind of go along with whatever norms and not really go to that deeper level because it's terrifying to people and dangerous, has been dangerous to do in society, especially for women and people that don't fit in, other marginalized groups. So when I wrote Volcano, I really wanted that to be this like representative of that struggle. It's like, can I come out as who I am? Or am I just going to hold it all in? And it's like the Volcano is obviously celebrating that coming out and that unleashing of your power and your voice, and how beautiful that is. Because volcanoes are very destructive, but they also created the entire land mass that we live on. So I really wanted that duality to sort of come through, that I have that line, they make diamond sands and fertile lands.
Yes, I
So
love that's one of my favorite lines too. And it's like because of that symbolism of the volcano being very destructive, but also very nurturing. It's such a dynamic symbol for what the woman is too, which is like really powerful in and of itself. My son's been watching Moana actually lately. He really loves that movie.
that's
And obviously uh Tafiti turns into Taka and is a volcano in the movie, but I think that there's also a symbol for that women's rage is very scary, and like kind of like you were saying that it's much easier to just, I think especially unfortunately as women, to just, oh, go with the flow, keep quiet, like I want to keep to myself because if I say anything then it's going to disrupt this. And there's always been a pattern in history for women to be, it's better for them to be like meeker and like not say what they're feeling, but there is such a power in like women coming together and making sure like, no, we're not okay, like the Me Too movement, and we're not okay with being treated like that, where we need to, our bodies need to be respected, we need to have sovereignty over our own bodies. And then also, just like you said, subtly every day, like, how do I not bump the boat, or like, anything like that. But coming together and finding your voice, coming together with yourself, and also accepting all the emotions that are flowing through you, um, is definitely represented in that song too. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think the rage, like you said, it's really a hard feeling for a lot of women to feel. It's
Yeah.
scary and feels very dangerous, like a volcano. But at the same time, if we hold all of those feelings back, then we will basically destroy ourselves on the inside. And I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting you go on like a rage, you know, like I think the pure energy of rage is just an emotion, like you're saying. You let it flow through you. It doesn't mean that you're going to hurt someone or murder someone. I think that
Right.
might come from you not actually being in touch with your feelings. But
Right.
rage is just this energy that there's lots of ways to express it and kind of use it to clarify your actions or to like set boundaries, or like it has a very important role to play. But I think people have the wrong idea that it's like, oh, if you let your rage go, you're just going to end up like going on some spree of destruction. And I think that more comes from like bottling it up, and then maybe it explodes out when you don't want it to. So how do we prevent that? And it's like the little earthquakes that prevent the bigger one, because you're like letting out over time
Pain.
versus like,
Right. Yeah, 100%. I mean, unfortunately, when I was younger, I definitely had a lot of rage issues, and I feel like recently I was diagnosed with like bipolar disorder, which kind of then made sense of everything else. But I also think there was a lot of like what you said, just holding in a lot of that rage and not finding proper sources to release that, or proper ways to even recognize it, because it's so stifled. And like you said, when you're not like recognizing what those emotions mean, then it becomes more catastrophic and destructive. But if you can notice, oh, that feeling's coming up, it's supposed to bring up in you a recognition of, oh, okay, you know what, this is kind of making me angry, what is this telling me right now? It's like, serve it as information. um and obviously I've been in therapy for a couple years now, so like talking through all that stuff really helps. I'm obviously like a deep diver, so talk therapy really really works for me. And um being able to talk through, and then recognizing those emotions, and then that becoming a new and better pattern, it takes a lot to work on yourself, but then when you finally get there, it does feel so much better.
oh yeah, completely. And good for you, like for just doing that and working on yourself and really kind of getting to those deeper levels of who you are, and not running from that. Because I think a lot of people, it's scary to face those things in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that really helped me, and because I think I was kind of the opposite, where I wasn't in touch with my anger or
Mm,
rage to the point when I wouldn't even know that it was there. And it was so buried underground that when I finally connected to it, it was like, oh boy, this is,
there it is.
there it is. And holy crap, because like, what am I going to do with this? Because a lot of it was like kind of old stuff. Like it wasn't, had nothing to do with things that have even happened in the past like 10 years.
Mm,
So, what I ended up doing, and this was a big part of Volcano, the song, is actually working, like literally pouring those feelings into the earth. Because
mm,
what I've found is the volcanic energy that's actually underneath, like if you think about, if you go deep, like through the earth crust, not too far down, there is magma, like this
right.
huge, amazingly powerful, like crazy energy. And I feel like if you push your rage into that, like even as a visioning exercise, it
Hmm.
can hold it when you feel like nothing can. It's like, what do I do with all this? It's bigger than me. I don't even know. It's out of control. It's like, I kind of think of it as like this feminine mother energy of the earth. It's like she can hold it for you if you kind of channel it downwards. And I found that to be very effective because it's like a more of an alchemizing
Hmm.
process
Yeah.
than it is just like either pushing it away or, you know, blowing it up too much.
Yeah, I personally think that that also really works for me, visualizing and things like grounding or releasing energy and like focusing on like breath work and releasing that. I actually, it's kind of funny, it like reminds me of this, like putting your anger and like giving it to like Mother Earth. I have this dragon tattoo actually here that I got a couple of years ago, actually right before COVID.
Mm,
Um, and I kind of call it like my protection dragon, like uh my depression, yeah, my depression dragon. So what it does is, like, for me, this kind of visualization really helps. And um so the diagnosis was bipolar depression, so then both sides of the fence. So I would, when I would get depression like really really bad, the I would really feel it in my body. I would feel it all the way into my fingertips, and it would be like kind of numb. And this dream vision thing kind of came to me one day, and it was so powerful. I literally use it whenever I feel down also now. And like whenever I feel depressed, I have my inner dragon come out, and it comes and grabs the darkness like in a violent way, and kind of like grabs the depression and like eats it and sets it on fire, and like begins to kind of warm me up again. But I think that there is something to say about imagery and symbolism and power and alchemy. And I think that as humans, like, I mean, especially us, I feel like we have this spiritual aspect, this deeper rooted aspect and connection to the earth and to the elements. And I think especially for people that are very sensitive, I think that's a really great way. Obviously everybody's different, it may not work for everybody, but I think that especially with you saying, taking your energy and aligning it with the volcano and giving it back to the volcano, to the earth, and um releasing that is very very powerful.
yeah, thank you so much for sharing also your story about that. That's so powerful to use a like a helping spirit, and
Yeah.
to borrow sort of a shamanic context. It's like a lot of cultures have used animals in that way to help them
Yeah.
with specific things, like the spirit of animals or the vision of animals or the symbolism of animals. So that's really beautiful that you're able to do that, and it's powerful what we can do with our minds,
Yeah.
like
a
just
hundred
putting
percent
our attention in that way.
Yeah. Like I even said, like, I've also, like, you could use anything. You could be like, oh, there's too many elk, and then you have a pack of wolves coming to help like get rid of all and the elk symbolize negative thoughts. It could be a little sea otter, and there's too many little urchins, and like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like uh for me, like, I'm a Scorpio, so like the the darkness and all that stuff kind of aligns with me, but it doesn't have to be so much like that too. uh,
Totally. Yeah, everybody can
yeah,
find their own what resonates with them, which might be very different.
right, exactly. And I think that's also, I think that's important to find what resonates with